Hello, everybody, and welcome to my podcast, Wellness Musings with Meg. This is episode number 32, and today's quite an exciting episode because if you've been following along with my 30-day fresh start, 30 days to a healthier you yoga journey, you will realize that today is the last day. So this episode kind of marks the last day of my 30-day yoga challenge. If you haven't been following along and you're diving in here into this episode, just because it's the end of January 2025 and I started it on the first day of January, this 30-day challenge is not specific to like a new year or anything like that. So feel free to go back, have a little look at it, maybe follow along. You can start from now. The beauty of this yoga challenge is that it is designed for everybody, every ability. If you're more advanced, it's going to be good because you can kind of start to touch base a little bit, go back to basics. And if you're someone who's completely new to yoga, it's fantastic because it kind of gets you started in a consistent practice. It teaches you a few things, like basic things. So, yeah, it might be worth having a little look. If you haven't been following along, maybe start from now, and I will then see you at the end of your 30 days. In this episode today, we're going to kind of reflect on the past 30 days. We're going to have a bit of a celebrate at the end of the challenge. And I'm going to go through how you can kind of continue your practice from here. So if you're kind of at the end of your 30 days and thinking, well, where do I go from here? That's what this podcast episode is all about. That's what it's here for. So I will see you guys on the other side. Hi, my name is Meg, and you are listening to the Wellness Musings with Meg podcast. I am a fully qualified beautician and yoga teacher who has studied and worked in health and wellness since 2017. I have been obsessed with wellness my entire life and have always wanted to share my passions more. If you love health, wellness, and yoga and want to learn more, this podcast is for you. I will be bringing you all things wellness, from diet and lifestyle to beauty tips and tricks, and of course, yoga as well. So grab yourself a green tea and find a tranquil spot, and let's jump in. So we're just taking a moment to really celebrate you and what you've achieved. And then we're going to start reflecting back onto this whole 30-day challenge. So right at the start, on the very first day, I asked you to get either a bit of paper or notes up on your phone to write down your intentions and what you hope to get out of the 30 days. If you can, see if you can get that bit of paper, bring that note back up on your phone, however you wrote it down, just so you can have a little look at it. And we're going to have a little look back and just kind of reflect on this past month. Okay, so before we go into our reflection, let's just take a second here to really think about what you have done and achieved over these 30 days. You've literally dedicated time to yourself every single day. You've dedicated time to your yoga. You've dedicated time to improve yourself, improve your mind, improve your body, improve your spirit. And you should be so proud of yourself and grateful to yourself for keeping up. I'm sure there will be some of you who maybe missed a day or two. That doesn't matter. I think you should still be really grateful, even if you just tuned into one of two of these classes in the 30-day yoga challenge. That's 2 more classes than if you had never done it that you wouldn't have done. So you should be really, really proud of yourself for making an effort and doing something for you and to further your yoga progress, to further your progress as a human being. I'm a massive believer, and yoga is so good for just improving everything in your life. It's so good for helping with mental stability, spiritual awakening, spiritual tranquility. It's so good, obviously, with like the asana and the physical practice of yoga. I think it's really obvious with what it helps with. It helps with easing tensions in the body. It helps with getting old more gracefully. It's such a good thing to do. The whole of yoga is a good thing to do. And so just you coming and doing a couple of lessons on through this 30-day challenge, or maybe if you literally were there for every single day, or maybe you're starting now and you're going to do every single day, you should be really proud of yourself. take a second to like celebrate you and celebrate yourself for doing this, because it's quite a big ask to, put aside time every single day for an entire month to further your own practice. It's quite a big ask, and it's not like it's something you have to give something to do that. You have to give up your time, you have to give up your energy. And so you've done that. So be really grateful and thankful to yourself and celebrate you just for a moment here. And now I want you to kind of reflect on your journey. If you did get a piece of paper at the very first lesson or the very first day, or maybe you wrote something down on your phone. And now we'll go into a moment of reflection and reflecting back onto your time doing this yoga journey. If you, on the very first day, if you remember, I asked you to either get a piece of paper or to write something in your phone. I'm hoping you've kept that bit of paper to continue to look at through this 30 days. But if you can, grab that bit of paper now and just have a little look at what you set for your intentions. So the three questions that I asked you right at the beginning was, how are you feeling right now in this moment? How are you feeling about the challenge? And I wrote calm, nervous, and excited. I was calm in that I'm quite a calm person most of the time anyway. And I just felt, very calm after the break that I'd had and coming back into this, and nervous because it was the very first time I'd done a yoga challenge, or like taught a yoga challenge. And I felt like there was quite a lot riding on it a little bit. I mean, if I missed a day, that's going to reflect on me as a teacher, and I'm sure it would have been fine, but I was nervous to do it. I was nervous to put myself out there and nervous to do this 30-day challenge. I didn't know how many people would be interested in watching it, how many people would even follow along. And I was excited. That was probably the most prominent feeling I had, because I was really excited to do this. I'm someone who really enjoys having a project and being able to do something like this for a little while. So have a little look at the feelings that you had at the very start and just take a second to kind of acknowledge those feelings, those emotions. They might have been positive, they might have been negative. You don't need to label it so much as to like label it with positivity or negativity, but just notice what's going on there. And then I asked you to have a goal by the end of the month, which wasn't set in stone, just to help you get to the right place. And actually, my goal is a perfect example of having an idea in your head of what you want to achieve, but how much it doesn't matter if you don't achieve it. So my goal by the end of this month was to get into the splits, which honestly, it did not happen. I really wanted to be able to get into the splits, and I will say I am a lot closer because I dedicated my practice to being able to do that. I worked very hard at it. The first couple of months in January, or the first couple of months of this 30-day challenge, I felt really unwell. So it did knock me back a little bit. And then obviously you have your recovery time as well. And I just didn't get there. And that's absolutely okay. That's fine. Like, you can set these goals and they're brilliant because they help you to move into a direction of where you want to go. And it gets you to a point where you think of why you're doing what you're doing. So, like for your whole yoga practice, why are you learning yoga? Why are you doing it? What is going to make you set aside time to practice this? What is the reasoning behind it? What would you like to either achieve, get out of it, or learn from it? You don't have to get there. That's the important thing about goals, especially in yoga, but I think in life as well. You do not have to you don't have to achieve this goal. You don't have to. And it's absolutely fine if you don't. But for example, if you're someone who wrote down that you'd like to learn more about yoga, I'd like to think that you might have learned a few things along the way. You might have learned things about yourself. You might have learned more about, I don't know, you might have learned more about yourself than about yoga. And that's fine. But the idea is that you sat there with a goal in mind. And every time you came into your practice, you were like, okay, I'm gonna listen to this, or I'm gonna really practice this. I'm really gonna take this in because it's gonna help me to achieve what I would like to achieve. If you did achieve your goal that you set, brilliant, well done, that is fantastic. But yoga isn't necessarily about setting goals. It's not about achieving massive goals and constantly progressing forwards. It's about bettering yourself. It's about bettering your life. So, yeah, have a little look at what your goal was, what you hoped you would achieve or learn. And again, just acknowledge and notice that and see where you are. Maybe it's something you want to continue practicing. Maybe it's something you've achieved. See how you feel. And then I asked you what you would like to get out of this. And for me, it was more tranquility and calming the mind, is what I wrote down. I'd say I definitely got that. I'd say I definitely found tranquility through this 30-day challenge. And it's definitely my mind is calm. And now I want you to ask yourself a couple of questions. And again, maybe writing them down. You can always write notes on this bit of paper or however you want to kind of take notes anyway. But I'm going to ask you a few questions just to get you to really reflect from this past month. So, how are you feeling right now? So, the first question, how are you feeling right now in this moment? And it could even be the same as how it was at the beginning of the month. It's fine. Just notice how you're feeling. What was your favorite part of this 30-day challenge? Was there a moment that really stuck with you? Was there a pose that you really enjoyed? Was there a pranayama practice you really enjoyed? What was your favorite time? Or it could be more than one thing as well. It doesn't have to be just one thing, but where were your favorite moments in this? Did you get out of the 30-day challenge what you hoped to get out of it? Do you feel more, for example, with me, do I feel more tranquil? Does my mind feel calmer? These were the things that I wrote down. Is that the same for you? If yes, fantastic. If no, why do you think that is? Is it because maybe you missed a few days or you've been unwell or something has happened? It's about noticing why you haven't got there and then creating the right steps to bring you to where you hope to be. Always remember, we're not putting pressure on ourselves here. You don't need to be somewhere. You haven't got anywhere to go. I always find that funny when people feel like they have to go somewhere, they have to be somewhere. In yoga, there is nowhere to go. You're just going. Every step is a step. And is there anything that you're learning to love? So, is there something or a pose maybe in the 30-day challenge that maybe you're learning to love? Could be a lunge, could be a difficult pose, it could be a pranayama practice that you've never done before and found quite tricky. It could be something that you found out about yourself and you're learning to love that. And that's okay. Acceptance. Where have you made progress? Is it in your flexibility, your strength, breathwork techniques, maybe learning more about yourself, learning more about yoga? Have a little think about all of the different places where you personally have made progress. Even if it's a tiny, tiny amount of progress, where have you made progress? And the last question is, what lessons have you learned? What lessons have you learned in this 30-day challenge? Maybe it's about yoga. Maybe it's about yourself. Maybe it's about the world around you. Maybe it's about how you approach things. The beauty of yoga is that it is not just about being on the mat. Yoga is life. It's everything. So continuing to practice off of the mat is still, and if you learn something about yourself, for example, it's still part of yoga. You have your yamas and your niyamas, which help you to how you interact with yourself and the world around you. So if you are off the mat and maybe you had a falling out with somebody or an encounter with somebody that maybe you weren't so happy about how you reacted in that situation, taking that notice and having that moment of realization of, I wish I hadn't maybe dealt with it that way, or it doesn't mean you need to live in guilt. It's about realizing and noticing what you wish you'd done differently, and then in future changing that and interacting with others in the world in the way that you would wish you had from then on. We are all human, we all make mistakes. So your lesson that you've learned, or lessons that you've learned, don't necessarily have to be in the 30-day challenge whilst it was happening there and then, whilst you're watching the videos. It could have been outside of the videos, it could have been in day-to-day life. So yeah, what lessons have you learned in the 30 days? You could take a little while to answer these. And you can always pause the podcast episode if you need a bit of time to answer each of these questions. So don't feel like you have to answer them really quickly. It will be really good if you can stop, pause, take a second, and yeah, really, really think about your answers here. I want you to keep these notes and this bit of paper with you, because I feel like to help you carry the practice out and to keep going with it and bringing it into day-to-day life where there's not a challenge aspect to it, I think it's important to have this bit of paper. Firstly, because if you do carry on, and you can carry on practicing yoga, you're going to see where you've made a difference. I do always think it's really good to journal. I've talked about it in other podcast episodes. I think that journaling and practicing gratitude is one of the best things that you can do for your mind. And when you're working in yoga, it's a really good way of kind of looking back and going, wow, I've made loads of progress. But day to day, you don't necessarily see it. So, especially in things like meditations and pranayama practices, because the steps forward are really subtle in some cases. And when it's asana, it's a bit different. So when it's your physical practice, you might be like, oh, well, I couldn't touch my toes and now I can. So you're seeing that there. But when you're journaling from more of a, what am I learning? What am I learning to love? What lessons have I learned? What things am I working on? What would I like to get out of this? You're seeing from a non-physical level what's going on. And then, for example, I might look back at my original bit of paper in a year's time and go, wow, I was hoping to find tranquility in calming the mind, but my mind is always calm, and or most of the time, and I've definitely found tranquility. But if I hadn't written that down and then looked back at that, I would probably never remember that I'd written that. So it's always nice to have a written confirmation of what's going on, so that you can look back and kind of go, wow, I have moved forward. Carrying on the practice, I think it's about having the motivation yourself, which again is why this is good to have this bit of paper, because you've sat here and thought what lessons you've learned, what you still want to learn, what things you're still working on. And that's going to be the motivation to get you to carry on. So keep checking in with yourself and asking yourself maybe what you would like to learn, what things, where you are, look at where you are, what lessons you're learning, where, these little questions help you to make that motivation. Like I said at the beginning, finding out why you're doing something will motivate you to do it more. For example, if you're going to the gym and it's because you want to lose weight, you have your motivation there. So if you're working out and exercising in a gym perspective because you want to lose weight, you have a goal, you have something in mind. So it helps you to get up and out, because you go, oh, well, I really want to lose some weight. I want to feel more active, maybe, it could be anything. It could be the same with like eating healthier. Maybe you're someone who suffers with acne and you're trying to eat more healthily or drink more water. You have a motivation there. You have something that is driving you to do that thing. So it's going to be the same with this, with carrying on with your yoga practice. Find out why you're doing it and make that the driving force behind doing it. Keep checking in with yourself. You can always come back to this podcast episode and keep asking yourself the same questions, like every month, every 6 months. I regularly, like I said, will journal, and my practices do shift and what I write will change, but that's more because I like to experiment and try different things. I definitely have tried and tested methods that I love. This kind of, these questions being the questions I asked myself a lot, and hence why they're part of this. But my practice will change and shift slightly, but that's my job. I'm always trying to work, iron out kinks, make what I give out to you guys the best it can possibly be. But you can always come back to this podcast episode. If these questions help you to be able to carry on, keep doing it. And just remember why you're doing it and enjoy doing it. That's a very important point. You're going to have your yoga journey high points and lower points. You're going to have times where you feel like you're not making any progress at all, and times where you feel like you're going at a million miles an hour and all of a sudden you're able to do quite a few things that you weren't able to do. And that's part of your journey. The beauty of yoga and the beauty of that, working on your spirituality, your asana, all of that, is when you fall down in life, whether it's physically or emotionally, mentally, being able to get back up is what you are taught in yoga. It's that strength to come back into it. If it's asana, if you're practicing a handstand or an arm balance and you fall out, what do? You don't give up. You don't go, well, I'm not doing that. You go back to it. That's how you get to where you want to be. If yoga or arm balances, all these practices, if they were easy, everyone would do them. We wouldn't need these classes. We wouldn't need the teachings. We wouldn't need gurus. We wouldn't need these classes, podcasts, YouTube episodes, people being taught, people having to do 300-hour plus yoga courses. Because if it was second nature, we wouldn't need that. So just remember, be kind to yourself. If you're on a yoga journey and you want to keep furthering your practice, listen to what you need and be kind to yourself. And it's something you will learn as time goes on, and you're always going to fall down and you'll have to get back up, because that is life. That's part of it. Whether it's physically, emotionally, spiritually, there's always going to be times where you question, where you have that challenge. But that's the challenge. That's what it is. Getting back up and redoing it to get yourself better is what makes you better. That's practice. That's what we do. So how to carry out the practice forward: keep checking in with yourself, enjoy the journey, do things that will keep sparking your interest. So maybe you really enjoyed this 30-day challenge, do more challenges. Set yourself little challenges, find more challenges, either workshops or retreats where it's a few days in a row. Maybe find them online, YouTube channels. Maybe you love learning something new. So, start maybe learning the philosophy in yoga. That's what got me hooked personally, is that I started off as asana, which I think a lot of teachers and students do. I started off learning the physical practice, the asana, and then I realized, and I loved that, and I was soaking everything up and I was just enjoying it so much. And then my eyes were opened to the philosophy behind yoga and looking at the lifestyle aspect and how intertwined everything is. And it's incredible. It's beautiful. And for me, for someone who loves to learn, that's what keeps me going. That's what gets me up out of bed in the morning. That's what makes me do my asana practice. That's what gets me to sit and learn about philosophy and yoga history, because I love it. That's the bits that I love. But if you're not, you've just got to find works for you what works for you. And if you've got any questions or anything at all, leave me a comment on at the end of this podcast. If you want me to maybe do another video, maybe talking more about how to carry a practice on in yoga, that might be something I bring out anyway. But any questions you've got, anything at all, always feel free to drop me messages, to comment on videos, to ask me these questions, because it helps me to guide this channel to what you guys want and need. At the end of the day, this channel is for you. It's for you guys. It is for me in a way, because I love doing it. It really does fill my soul to do this. But if you guys have a question, or you want something, you want to learn something, ask me. I'll always do my best to answer. And if I can't, I will try and find someone who can, or I'll help you to get into the right direction. I will never know everything about yoga because it's so vast, and that's okay. But I know, well, I know what I know, and what I know is what I know. And if I know what you're asking me, I will 100% answer. And like I said, if I can't, I will try and find someone who can. I really hope you enjoyed this 30-day challenge. I loved it. I loved teaching it. I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about my teaching style. I this January for me, I know some people are going to be listening to this in other months, but I've loved the start of 2025. It has 100% had its challenges, and I wouldn't say it's been the easiest month I've ever had. But I have 100% been tested. But that's what I've loved about it. I've been tested in quite a few different ways with some quite life-changing big things that a few years ago, or even a few months ago, I probably wouldn't have been able to deal with. But it's really nice to see at the beginning of this year that, yes, I've had these really big things happen to me, these huge challenges, but I've dealt with them in a very calm, spiritual, tranquil way. And that is what yoga is all about. It's about being able to control your emotions. It's about being able to deal with things. We're all going to go through horrible patches. We're all going to have good times and bad times. It's about being able to cope through the bad times. And yoga helps you with so much with that. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this month. I've loved it. If you want me to do any more challenges, again, let me know. If you'd like to do, I'm thinking of doing a handstand challenge, like 30 days to handstands or something like that, or 4 weeks to handstands. And I've thought about doing a splits one as well, like 30 days to splits. So if you guys would like me to do anything like that, let me know. And yeah, I really, really hope you enjoyed the 30-day challenge. I hope you got something out of it. And I look forward to seeing you all again soon. Yeah, thank you for supporting me. Thank you for listening to my channel, for following along, whether it was one lesson, whether it was all 30 of them. Thank you so much for supporting me, for enjoying this challenge with me, and I look forward to bringing even more out to you guys. Thanks. Bye.